All right. Okay, so we are speaking with Andy Cleves. Andy, well, let's talk a little bit about the business. Let's just cover some of the basics. First off, what's the trading name of the businesses? Because I know we're talking about different entities. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's Cleves Earth Moving and Drainage. Nick, can you give me a sec, please? And Cleves Garden Supplies.
Okay, all right. And what is the address of the business?
The address is 20 Wanganui Road, Shepparton.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20 and 15 Wanganui Road, Shepparton. Both sides of the road.
Okay. All right. When was the business originally established?
The company was established in 1996.
1996. Okay. Well, with that in mind, can you tell me a little bit about the history of the business?
It started off with my father back in the 70s. He just started off buying one single backhoe. Then he started laying drains, brought in some subcontractors with him and started laying like sewers and storm waters. I joined him in the late 70s. Then we grew to about 4 or 5. We started just doing general hire work of backhoe hire, truck hire, and doing sewers, storm waters, that sort of thing, water mains. And then we grew, and we don't do as much sewage and all that as we do anymore on the housing. We do a little bit here and there. We sort of got out of that a little bit, and then we just grew from there, bought excavators and bobcats and then all sorts of attachments for them. We bought more trucks and trailers. Then we've moved on from general hire, which we still do general hire, but now we do a lot of civil works. Mm-hmm. So now we've got contracts with local councils, like we've got the local council here, the Shepparton Council. We do work for the Shire of Campaspe, which is over at Echuca, Shire of Moya, which is up Cobram, Yarrawonga way. We do a fair bit for them, and then we do a bit of road constructions and so forth, work for NEMA and Downer, Vic Roads or Regional Roads Victoria. So we do a fair array of stuff. We do general hire, civil works. We'll work for farmers, builders, electricians, plumbers, the local councils. We still do sewer mains, manholes, storm water pits, curb and channel works. So we sort of diversify over a fair area. Plus also we do the garden supplies. We supply about 50 different products to the local contractors and just the general community. So that runs 7 days a week. Yeah.
Okay.
So
just to backtrack for a second. So about this diversification where you moved towards the gardens, but when did that take place exactly?
It just all happened gradually, step by step.
Okay.
We didn't just do one big move and say, right, we're finishing here and we're starting here. We've done bits and pieces, come in. The garden supplies would have been running now for about 18 years. We had the land there, so we just had, piles of gravel and that we're using ourselves, and we started selling it. Then we decided to set up bunkers and so forth, concrete bunkers, and just started bringing in different supplies and so forth, and then we opened to the general public.
Okay.
So that's 7 days a week, maybe 360 days of the year sort of thing.
If you look at the website, our garden supplies, Cleves Garden Supplies website, it actually does have aerial drone footage of the depot. Mm-hmm. See how big it is and a range of products there. I think there's probably 50 sand and gravel products, and then we've got sleepers and pavers. There's quite a lot on site.
Okay. By the way,
that's most probably.
Oh, sorry.
That's most probably what 25% of our business, I suppose, is the garden supplies. Maybe 30%, 35%. We sell to a lot of local landscapers and so forth. Mm-hmm. We have had the opportunity to break into landscaping ourselves, but it'd be a little bit detrimental doing that because then we'd lose the local suppliers to supply to them. We do little bits and pieces of landscape work for certain customers, but we don't push it. We always get asked if we want to do it, and we get quotes to do, but we sort of push it off on other landscapers. So there is a great deal in this business. So anyone that would like to make it grow, there's the options of running sand pits, having our own sand pit, having our own quarry. Like I say, moving the landscaping. We've got all the tools and everything there for the landscaping, all the equipment, the products, and so forth. There's also room for growth in concrete crushing. Recycling, running a crushing plant. We get that much concrete every year, like for free, because we pull it out for the local council. That we were going to set up a crushing plant and so forth, and then recycle the product and reuse it. But it was sort of, we just sort of had enough of it. And how far do you go? But if someone, if I was 20 years younger, there's a lot here that you could push forward and make this business like triple in size.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just ask you this. And by the way, just so you know, obviously, I know that a lot of this information is on the website, but obviously, I'm trying to approach it from a different perspective, not from the perspective of a customer, but rather from the perspective of a prospective buyer. Okay,
right,
so speaking about the prospective buyer, who do you envision as the most appropriate buyer type or segment for this type of business?
For the business as a whole, for the whole business, somebody maybe like Apex, but they're already in town.
Sure.
There may be
somebody in the industry.
Yes. The only other way that I thought was somebody like if the Chinese were interested, and trying to get their family out here. Well, maybe that's sort of not happening at this moment, but they'd need a background knowledge. It's not like buying a milk bar and working a milk bar and moving the family in,
Yeah.
So,
well, speaking of which, I mean, obviously we'll talk about your role in the company in a moment, but does the buyer need to have any specific qualifications, permits, or licenses themselves?
No, they'd have to get accreditation though for local. Like I'm a licensed drainer, but not that we do that much drainage work anymore.
Sure.
You have the basic things. No, I wouldn't say they'd have to have. No, looking at it now. No, they'd want a bit of background knowledge and expertise in the business, to know where they're going. But that would be a bonus for sure. So to have somebody that come in and didn't know what they're talking about in earth moving would be a little bit of a downside for them. So they'd really want that expertise.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So let's talk first about the would you define it as civil construction, I guess, sort of like, encompassing the drainage side and, the construction side of the business?
Yes.
Let's talk about that just for a moment. So you mentioned previously that you do a lot of work for government. You mentioned a number of councils and you mentioned big roads. Do you deal with any private clients as well, or is it mostly government?
No, definitely private clients as well, local builders and so forth. The local hospital, I'm doing a quote at the moment for the local hospital here. Local builders. Okay. We do a lot of work for them. Other construction companies coming to town and take on a big project and maybe ask us to quote on it and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right. What would you estimate is the split, roughly, between private clients and government for the construction side of the business?
Money-wise and the civil side, it'd nearly be, what would you say now? Civil side, yeah. Yeah, it's most probably...
I'd probably say half.
Yeah, half the 60%.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
But the money's in the civil.
Yep.
Okay. And why do they come to you specifically?
I think we've been around for a long time. We do a lot of advertising, and they know we can get the job done.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yep. What's the competitive field like?
We've mostly got 2 competitors in town that mainly compete against most of the stuff we do. But it's not so bad. It's not that cutthroat where you have to go and cut, your cost down to the bottom line to get the job. we most probably win 2/3 of what we quote.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's huge.
and we're at the moment we're knocking quotes back. We're just picking and choosing at the moment.
Okay.
Because otherwise we're that snowed under anyway, you know what I mean? So it's no good putting more pressure on ourselves. And then if you get like that, then you can't deliver in the timeline, deliver the quality of work that you like to deliver. I think it's detrimental to you down the track. So because we're a family business and family name and been established here for so long, any bad jobs you do, you know what I mean? It's not like working in Melbourne or Sydney, where you can just move from one client to the next, upset one, do the wrong thing by him, bugger him, we'll just move on to the next one. It's not like that here.
Yeah.
So even though that can happen, you know, everybody remembers one little mistake. You don't always get a pat on the back for all the good stuff that you do. So, but yeah, I think, yeah,
We're one of the biggest names in.
yeah, we're mostly one of the biggest names in town here.
Okay.
There's one civil company that's bigger than us here, but they only do wholly and solely civil works.
But I mean, on that note, do you start from scratch or do you have ongoing relationships with your clients? Here's what I mean by that. I mean, when they pick up a new job, do they automatically give it to you, or does it come down to a tender quoting process? And, you know, you're basically, each job is kind of, you know, its own thing.
50-50.
Okay.
50-50. Some we get just come in, they just give it to us to do.
Well, your council work, it's all tendered. It's legally tendered these days, but you can't do a job for them without doing a quote or a tender.
Sure.
We used to get it all. I think they might be able to still give it to you if it's under $5,000. You know what I mean? So if it's a 1 or 2 days work, you can sort of get it without the tender process. We've also got contracts in there, so you got your rates. So yeah, they can. With that one, they can decide there's us and another contractor, like the curb and channel contract, which is mostly what, 3 million a year. That one, I suppose, roughly around about 3 million. There's only us and another contractor, so whoever they see fit, they give it to either them or us. So that one we don't have to contract to, and we've had that going now for 4 or 5 years. So they got our rate, so they just hand us work after work. So that runs for about 11 months of the year, that one.
I see. Okay. So I guess sort of like, you know, when you talk about, normally I would ask about key strategic advantages, which is obviously something very important in a competitive field. But am I correct in saying that in your field, it really just comes down to the fact that, look, I mean, you're providing what you've promised, and that's about it in terms of, you know, really your advantages in that, you know, look, you're obviously reliable, you know what you're doing, you know, probably have a average price point. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair point to say. Also, we're well known for, if there's any problems, we come back and fix them as well. So with our local clientele, they know that if there is a problem, we're not going to leave them in the lurch. We come back and fix it.
Okay. Okay. Now, what's the split in terms of services, roughly, between earth moving and drainage, which I understand are the two major services for this part of the business?
And that's why we don't do so much drainage anymore, as what we used to. We do more of the earth moving side, but the earth moving covers a far range of stuff. So the drainage that we do now is more when we come into the civil work. So we do car parks, things like that, storm water and the drainage in. So it's not like we're going out there and doing deep sewers, going through new estates. We don't get into that anymore. So the drainage side is not a really big part of our business, but we still do it. It complements the other side. Part of the civil sort of complements it.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the garden supplies. Well, first things first, what would you estimate is the breakdown between trade customers, I'm talking about landscapers and builders and whatnot, versus retail, so end users?
Cash customers always double trade.
Yeah. So who's coming through the gate? Mostly double what?
Yeah, so you trade the trades are, you know, our trade accounts are our credit account holders. They're the businesses that we work with in town. But our cash sale customers, you know, that's just your everyday customer that's coming and getting something. that doubles the account customers.
In the garden supplies, yeah. General off the street customer doubles the sales of the account
And
customer.
especially on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday trade doubles your weekday trade.
Okay,
In summer, it can triple.
I see.
That's only on the garden supplies side.
Yes, yes. Okay.
But then a lot of our garden supplies also goes out to our civil jobs as well. So our garden supplies business feeds our civil works.
Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, now with both of these, well, I guess moving back to the earth moving and drainage business, but let's call it the civil construction business, if that's all
Yep.
right. Talk to me first of all about your role in that organization.
My role is I'm the director of the company, same as my brother, obviously, working director. But my brother and I are both on the machines. We're still hands-on.
I see.
So we get out of the machines every day. We don't want to be sitting in an office, mind you. It's not our, it's not our forte to do that.
Yeah.
But we run it through our mobile phones, earpieces while we're operating. So whether we're working for a customer, whether we're on general hire, whether we're in civil construction, whatever we're doing, and we run it back through managers. We have a manager that runs the truck and trailers, which carts from the quarry and feeds our garden supplies. We have another manager that runs the garden supplies itself, another manager that runs the earth moving, another manager, Nicole, who's my wife, she runs the admin department, and we speak and run it through them as we're working every day. So we're still hands-on. We do the quote.
Oh, sorry. Just to check. Sorry. So you said there are 5 managers in total. Is that correct?
5, yes.
5. Okay. Yep. Sorry. Go on.
And then we have, supervisors and that out on different sites. So we talk to them all day through the phone. Any problems, they give us a call. We can keep working then, keep operating the machinery or whatever we're doing, or supervising sites ourselves and running it that way. We just find that we don't want to be sitting in the office. We still like getting out there. And it's easier for us to sort of do a bit of both, being hands-on as well, because you're out in the field with the boys as well. So you don't sort of lose touch of it. It could be ran the other way. There's no need for us to be on the machines. That's just what we choose to do. We'll still be on the tools as well as running it. So, yeah, we run it through the mobile phones.
Okay. How many hours a week do you and your brother do, each of you, roughly?
$60.
No, you're still doing 12. I think.
Yeah, 60 to 70 hours a week.
Okay.
Yep. That's not all on machinery. That's at home doing quotes, bookwork, everything else. Accounts.
Over 5 days or 6 days a week?
Oh, over 5. Sometimes it goes in this 5 to 6, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, now with as far as getting as far as the organization, obviously let's not talk about everybody because obviously you employ a large number of people. Okay. Afterwards, I'll send you an email if it's okay, like just to see if you guys have like a staff schedule. I'll send you just the details of what we need. Okay, just so we can put that on the memorandum. Okay. But very importantly, do you believe that the business is well staffed for its current levels, or do you feel like you're overstaffed, understaffed? What's your impression?
Most probably understaffed.
Understaffed.
Understaffed, yeah.
Okay, so when you talk about knocking back jobs right now, is it because you're understaffed, or is it just because you're just being selective with what you get?
Bit of both, most probably understaffed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just they're not lining up the door, knocking the door down, looking for a job.
Sure.
We could do it for another, 3 or 4 more easy, experienced people.
Yeah.
Really, you get them and they leave. You know what I mean? You build somebody up, you'll have them for a couple of years, and you start building up in that direction. Then they'll leave, sort of thing. So then you got to sort of wait for somebody else to come along to take on that area. So at the moment, yeah, we could mostly put easy another 10 to 15 people on, but we need experienced people to help run them. So it's not a matter of just getting anybody off the street and putting them on and sending them out to work. It's a thing.
And is it the fact that you're in regional Victoria that you think is causing this staff shortage, the skilled staff shortage?
I'd say so, yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, that's good. moving on. Let's talk about a little bit about your systems and processes. Have you guys developed a system in terms of your operations, or is it taken on a case-by-case basis? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, it's case by case, a lot of it. But we do have our system set up with our contract work and our civil works as far as with the councils and so forth. We have our tenders process that we have. We go to each job. That's set up, so that flows pretty much the same. Each job might alter 5%, because every job's that little bit different. But yeah, what would you say, Nick? Yeah, we've sort of got a process set up for. We do. Yeah. Maybe 85% of the work we have the process set up where we go. The other ones are different. Some jobs come in, we haven't done them before, that sort of work, so it changes a little bit. We do have the process set up there to go forward and do it. But sometimes we get to the job and we work it out as we go. On a few of the jobs we have to get in and start moving on the work straight away, and then we bring the process in behind us as it comes. So it's a little bit unique in that way, the business, I would say.
Sure. Okay, but say, for example, so you see a tender out there from one of the councils. First things first, so generally, how long does it take for you to submit? Understanding, of course, they have deadlines of their own, but generally, how long does it take for you to put a tender together?
Depends on the size of the tender.
I see.
You know what I mean? Normally, we're doing it after hours or on weekends. So you got to get prices and so forth for different things, so a really big tender, a week for us. Yep. Others you can do in a few hours. It's straightforward. You already know what's required. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get out of the ordinary. So sometimes you're waiting for the supplier to come back. Like we're just creating one at the local hospital at the moment. We've been waiting a week from Furphy's, who's a local business here in Shep, but now based in Melbourne. So you can't go in the doors anymore at the office and ask them. Everything's got to be done email backwards and forwards, and you've got to wait for their price to come in. So something like that, sometimes it can take 3 weeks. Working on it for 3 weeks. It can just take 3 weeks to get together.
Okay. And I assume it would be the same with quotes for private clients as well.
Some of them we can do in a matter of a couple of hours or over the phone, or it all depends on, they're all varying.
Yeah, I understand.
We do such a broad range of work that it does vary of what, we'll still do jobs today that we haven't done before, but we know what we're doing there, you know what I mean? So we still know how to do it. So that takes a little bit more to put together. Yeah.
I think what he's asking is, do you have the system in place to be able to go straight away? There's systems and policies and procedures in place for the business.
Oh, righto. Yeah.
For a wider range of jobs. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, so suppose I'm buying the business and I come in, because I mean, obviously, what's being sold isn't you and your brother and everything you know how to do. Okay, so the question is, if I come in as the new owner, how do I fit into this entire process? I mean, sort of, is there something like a step-by-step in place, or really do they have to kind of adapt as they go along? If that makes sense.
They'd have to adapt a little bit, to be truthful. You know what I mean? That's why but if they had the background of what we do in the earth moving or civil construction, they'd fall into it, no worries at all. Okay. We do have the systems in place, yes, but yeah. So if they've had the background, wouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
But if you've come into it and you've had nothing to do with civil works or anything like that, right, yourself, and just wanted to buy the business as an investment, right, it would be a little bit harder. There is systems in place, but you'd still need a bit of knowledge, to go with that.
Sure.
So you're not going to sell it to somebody that's really, that's been in a fish and chip shop and got a bit of money left to them, and then they want to buy a civil construction business.
Yeah. I get it.
They'd have to take the managers on with them, brother and myself, to learn for 6 months, 12 months, you know what I mean? To do that. Yep.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that you do a lot of advertising. How's that done exactly?
Many different ways. We do it, yellow. It's always been the phone book. We've got the back cover, front cover. That's nearly obsolete nowadays, the phone book. But we still keep it in there because there is still people that are computer illiterate and won't have smartphones. I'll still pick up a phone book. Pardon, right, that's been there from day one. We've got a billboard in town, biggest billboard in town. Mate owns a pub on the main intersection of Shep. We've been on there now for about 15 months. It comes up a couple of hundred times a day, our ad. Everybody sees it. We do
a lot of print advertising, and our census campaign online, obviously, which has been going for years and years and years. Have an online census.
Okay.
The website, and yeah, lots and lots of local regular print advertising. And everybody knows our name, so but it's always good to keep that name out there as well. So I have every quarter I'll do some kind of print advertising, whether it's an editorial, a photographic advertising in a local magazine, which we show our, pictures of our products.
Have you got one there?
No, I don't.
No. The other thing is we have brochures and so forth, and fridge magnets. We've done simple little things like that. Used to do letter drops around town, new estate going up. We do letter drops, just basic things. But we do a lot of sporting venues around town. We've been there for many years. I think we do 4 football clubs, 1 netball club, the local harness trotting track. So we've got to put the signs up all around town on those places.
And just the trucks.
And then we advertise, yes, on the vehicles. We've got our names all over our vehicles. So the trucks, truck and trailers, we've got it right down the side of them. And yeah, so we push it out there everywhere, the name. And that's the best advertising of the lot, actually, because you only pay for it once. And as long as the truck stays clean, it looks all right.
And just out of curiosity, I mean, sort of when you talk about such a limited competitive field in which you operate, and the fact that obviously these clients, they know you already and they know the service you deliver, why do you need to invest so heavily in marketing?
It's the new single owner operators that come up through the ranks. So we've had a lot of staff over the years in our employment, and then they go and buy their own machine, they'll buy their own truck, and then they go out on their own. I mean, we've been around for over 40 years, so there's been a lot of our own personal staff that have done that. And there's good money in it, you know what I mean? So we used to have the monopoly. We had the monopoly on everything, but probably the last 10, 15 years, there's a lot of owner operators that have started up. They're cheaper prices. They don't have the same overheads that we do, and then you might get one owner operator that starts to branch out, and he'll end up turning his one-man band into a business. So the competition as far as coming up against owner operators that don't have any other factors, involved in the work that they produce, you still have to stay relevant. I mean, just because everybody knows us doesn't mean we can stop advertising and just sit back and, I don't believe it works like that anyway. So I stay sort of on the front foot of advertising.
Keep the finger on the trigger.
Sure. Okay. All right, let's talk about your geographical premises. Now, you mentioned that for the civil side of the business, that you essentially just run it out of your phones. Okay.
Yep.
But obviously, you've got, is it a warehouse for the civil side, or is it just offices?
For the civil side, we just have yards. We have 2 yards. Like we have one where we base the girls after admin. Our main depot. Mm-hmm. And that's where we have the sand and gravel yard and the bunkers with all the products in.
We have our workshops.
Just our workshop and so forth. Then across the road, we have where we keep all the machinery and so forth, where we're talking about planning and building a new shed at the moment. Mm-hmm. They're 4 acres on one side of the road, 4 acres on the other side of the road, which are in town. And the local transfer stations down the road too, so people are going up and down past there all the time. So it's a good advertising point, and that's also part of where the bypass is going to go shortly, past our property hole when it goes. It's been on the plans for a while on the drawing board, but it's meant to go past there, so that's going to increase the clientele going, or maybe clientele going past. They're going to view our main Cleves Road up there everywhere. Sorry about that, bit distracted. I think the bloke next door's got one of those tractors, the old bulldog tractors.
Yeah.
And it's joof. And we've got the dog inside here, so she's a bit scared by it, so distracting us a little. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
So, yeah.
And the garden supplies business, that's located in the same premises, is that correct or no?
One's on one side of the road, the garden supplies, and the earth moving's on the other. Okay. Directly opposite. 4 acres here, 4 acres there.
Okay.
So We run it out of our homes as well, our houses, like now, at home. My brother has got an office as his house as well. Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're almost at the end, by the way.
No, you're right. So,
Let's do a quick SWOT analysis. For the civil side of the business, let's talk about your strengths. Can you give me 5 strengths of the business?
experience, have the machinery,
Assets.
the men.
Proven
We've
track
got
record.
good. Sorry.
You have a proven track record.
Oh, proven track record. Yep. Supply. We get supply pretty much. Even if they can't deliver, we go pick up, sort of thing. So there's no hold-ups. And I suppose, big strength is also we have backup machine. One breaks down, we don't sit and wait. We've got other machine we bring in. I suppose I don't know how many that named, but they're our strengths: experience, machinery, the men, and the know-how, knowledge.
What about for the landscaping? Garden supply side of the business? What do you think are the strengths of that entity?
There's 2 other competitors in town. One doesn't deal with the general public. He's across the road from us, just up the road. We're friends, family of friends. He supplies sand to us, actually. So we sell his product. Little man goes, now you go in there to buy $300 or $400 worth of product. He tells you he's not interested. He sends you across the road to us. The other one's up the far end of town, the complete other end of town, and they're struggling a bit. They're open some days, not open others. Some weekends are open, they shut. So that's our strength there in the garden supplies.
We're the biggest regional garden supply centre in Victoria, biggest regional one. Yeah.
Yep.
And we're 7 days a week.
Okay.
And there's lots of room to expand there. I've been wanting to do a showroom or a gift shop there for a few years, but the boys are concentrated on the earth moving side of the business, so that hasn't taken up. But there's a huge opportunity for that to take off. And we have a nursery behind us as well. So we don't sell plants, but we tell people to go around the corner and then they go to the nursery and buy their plants and then they send them around to us to get their product for their garden. Doing a gift shop I think would be really good for the garden supplies business.
Okay.
Or a showroom. Yeah, we do pots as well now, so it's just an extension to that.
20 years younger, like I said before at the start, 20 years younger, there's lots of room to. Yeah. If you got to get up and go and want to do, you got to get out. There's lots of, you can take on so much here.
Looks like it. Weaknesses. Obviously, we're going to be approaching weaknesses from the perspective of showing potential buyer areas where they could improve and therefore make more money, etc., etc. What do you think are the weaknesses in the civil side of the business? I would suggest staff shortages. I mean, you've mentioned that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Staff shortages, a couple of real good staff members, real good, that's got the experience. That's most probably, the only thing holding back the civil side of it from growing is a couple more men that you could pick up that have got the experience there, as well hands-on operators, as well as running the show. That is what would hold that back that little bit. That'd be its weakness.
What about your physical location in regional Victoria? Is that a weakness?
I don't think so. I think that's a strength.
Okay, so it doesn't prevent you from kind of doing jobs, say closer to Melbourne or down the peninsula.
We go to Wallen. We work at Wallen. We go all the way. We go probably heading towards Melbourne. We go right on the outskirts. Mm-hmm. We don't go looking for work there, mind you. People take us there. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean, to go there. We do work there. We do up at Yea. We work at Yea. We go as far as Benalla.
For Vic Roads.
For Vic Roads. Vic Roads take us there. Echuca, Cuyuna, Kerrang. So we most probably go towards the south, towards Melbourne. We mostly go 150 k's from home, and the other direction's 80 k's, east, west, and north. Mm-hmm. We could go further. We do get options to go further, but we're not that quiet that we have to go chasing it, sort of thing. But if a client here wants to take us, he knows what he's going to get when he goes up there. That's normally on general hire work, which is only a small part of the business. He will take us up there, and he'll pay the travel time and so forth, pay the accommodation. But at the moment, yeah, Downer and Regional Roads Victoria have been taking us to different places. So the guys will go up and stay there for a week at a hotel and whatnot. So, but there is room to grow there too. Like we could expand further. We can go. We haven't been to Bendigo before, but go Bendigo, really push for it. If someone had to go in them, they could really push there. They could open up another branch in Bendigo or Ballarat. There's options of that, but we're sort of done it for a long time now. And, you know, my brother's 10 years younger than me. He's still got a bit of oomph and get up and go in him, but he wants out as well. You know, we don't want to be doing it like the old man. The old man's 86. He was still working hands-on till he was 84. But work was his love. When he had a 4-way bypass once in the hospital, the surgeon said to me, "You can't believe what the old man said to him." You know, most blokes ask if they can play golf anymore, if I can make love to my wife after the operation. My old man asked him, will I be able to use a shovel again? That's his love and passion, his work. Because he done it hard in the old days, pick and shovel, you know, and moved on to machinery and growing. So he's 86 now, and if he still could, he'd still be working. So he had that passion to keep going to the very end, you know. But I got plenty of things I can do. I can play golf, go motorbike riding. Got a lot of mates with a lot of toys that want to play, you know. So we're sort of past all that side of it. So I am anyway.
And your health.
Yeah, and the health plays a big part too. I've been crook a bit, heart, cancer, things like that. So
sorry to hear that.
Sort of got to knock the stress down a little bit. So
sure.
Yeah.
Weaknesses of the garden supply side of the business. What would you say they are? Am I correct in saying that the civil side probably, you know, pushes a little bit too much of the focus from what I'm hearing? Is that, you know, like obviously it's almost like second tier to the civil side. Is that fair to say or no?
Yes, it is. It is second tier, yeah, to it. But yeah, but I wouldn't say there's any real weaknesses there. Or
look, with everything, it's always staffing levels and staffing issue. I mean, if you don't have good key staff in the key roles, the supervisory role, you don't get the guys falling into line consistently as far as protocols. And that's my biggest bugbear with what I do. That's my role. Policies, the procedures, the safety, that. And if we lose a key guy that, you know, have the job of keeping the other guys into line and them to follow those systems, everything works well. If not, that can be a bit of an issue.
Another weakness, it's not so much a weakness, but a real strength to add garden supply. Be, like I said before, a sand pit, have your own sand pit, even have your own crushing plant, a quarry. So even though it doesn't work as a weakness to us at this stage, that could be a strength that really could be added to it. So then your supply line is cheaper because you're producing it yourself instead of bringing it in. See, at the moment, everything we sell out of the garden supplies, we bring from Melbourne, from different quarries and sand pits that we source around the area. So even though, as I said, that's not a weakness, it would be a real strength if you could supply your own sand and supply your own gravel.
Okay. Opportunities on the civil side. Now, we've addressed already a few of them, and we talked about, obviously, you know, bringing on board more qualified staff, and the work is basically there. We talked about a geographical expansion. You mentioned about having, you know, branches in Bendigo, Ballarat, etc. Anything else that you think, as far as the civil side, you know, really they're kind of there for the taking for the new owner?
Oh, if he had expertise in deep drainage, like deep sewer, you know, new estates and so forth. Yeah, there's only one person down here that does that. We used to do that, but we moved away from it. Yeah, he's got no opposition. The guy that does this, the drainage here and all the estates, all the deep sewer. And there's big money in deep sewer work.
And the town's booming.
And the town's growing big time. It's taking off.
Building's huge here.
Yeah. So that would really, really push forward if somebody wanted to do that, the drainage side of it. Yeah. Okay. But they would have to come in with expertise.
Okay.
To do that.
What about putting dedicated salespeople? Is that an avenue or no?
as in selling for the civil side to try and.
Or does it
We
really
got
just within the quote side of the business? Not really.
No, we got enough as it is without enough work coming through the door, you know, and phone calls coming in without trying to sell it anymore. Obviously, if you put different branches out there, I feel that you'd have to do that. You know, if you move to a different town, have the salespeople there to do that. So also another thing is you could have a full-time quotator. Estimator, sorry.
Sure.
Quotator, wrong word. Estimator, which would be handy, but then again, we don't really feel that we need that. We've got enough, you know, with the 50 staff we got, we're keeping them going the way it is. But if you grew up to 70, 80 and got that more expertise in there, yes, quotator would be one, and then maybe salespeople out there to push it along a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Franchising?
Yeah, it's a family.
No, it's a family business sort of thing. It's something that could be pushed down the track, maybe.
Okay.
The garden supplies could be pushed, you know, the name.
Mm-hmm.
You see it happens other places. But yeah,
okay.
But something we've never looked at franchising, you know, like Jim's Mowing or anything like that. But
sure.
Yeah, not in civil, garden probably.
Garden supplies, maybe that's a possibility if someone really had the push to do that. But yeah, not on the civil side of it.
Okay. All right. I want to address opportunities as far as the garden side of the business, because I feel like we've talked about it quite a bit already. You know, we've identified quite a few during this conversation. So I guess my last question to you is the following. Do you feel like I've missed anything in this conversation with you? Do you think that there's something that I haven't talked about or that you haven't talked about that we really should? Aside from financials, obviously.
No, not really. I think we've covered the main thing, looking at it to sell it to us, you know, a buyer. Well, the figures will speak for themselves, you know, what it does and what it makes and so forth. But the biggest thing I think that pushes what we're already gone over is the opportunity to grow. So if somebody just wants to come in and take on a business that's already set up, yes, that's fine. They can see what they're getting on the paper from the accountants, come and have a look, you know what I mean? Blah, blah. But the growth, there is that much opportunity here to grow in so many different ways.
Okay.
Could triple easily, just in town.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I did forget to ask you one important thing. Now, the premises, I assume that they're both premises are owned by you guys. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So what's your idea in the sale of the business? I assume that asking price doesn't include the properties, does it?
No.
Okay. So is your idea to rent it out to the new owner? You want them to relocate, or you want to, you want them to buy? I mean, what's your proposal there?
To rent it out to the new owner. One side wouldn't worry us, but if they had another depot to put all the earth moving equipment.
Sure.
But the side where the garden supplies is, they'd be silly not to take that, because it's set up to go set up just a yard. They're looking at $250,000 easy just in bunkers, you know what I mean, and concrete. Okay. So they'd be silly not to. And that side's, people know where it is. It's on the right road. It's got the traffic going to the transfer station. The bypass is going to come down that way, the off ramp. So they'd be silly not to take that one. The other one, if they had other land, they could relocate that. But our plan would be to lease both out to the owners, yeah, to the buyers of the business.
Under what terms and under what rent? Have you thought about that, or is that just something you'd address?
I think that's been put through to use. I think Alarm got that one.
Oh, good.
We put
so
it through.
About that.
He's got that, yeah. So I don't know, whatever terms we're negotiable on that. You know, you do a 5x5 or whatever. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Guys, thank you very much for your time. I know that, how do you call it? You're just out of lockdown, just like me, so you probably want to go out and celebrate.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
I'm in Geelong. I'm also enjoying it.
Oh, you're in Geelong, are you?
Yeah.
Did you say, yeah, it's a beautiful city, Geelong?
Yeah, it's very. We're just here for normally I live in Melbourne, but we're just here for the year because my wife's doing training at the hospital here.
Oh, righto. Yeah, it's not quite as hectic as Melbourne, is it, Geelong? It's
so good not to have any traffic ever.
And I barrack for Geelong. Go the Cats.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
No worries.
No worries, guys. I'll just shoot you an email afterwards, just with a couple of bits and pieces, if you have available of documents, just for us to complete. But if not, then obviously we'll give you the first draft. Let us know what you think. Tell us if we're on the ball. Tell us if we missed the mark. but I think that I've got a good sense of what the business is about, and I think that we can put together a really beautiful document.
Yep, no worries, Alex. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Bye.
See you
Bye.
later.
Bye.